Yeah, let me share my PowerPoint. And you know very well that when we started with reformative theory of punishment, at that time we said that reformative theory will never agree with capital punishment, because reformation itself means that you need a person to survive. The convict has to survive. अगर अगर गुनेगार को डेथ पेनल्टी दे दिया, तो obviously there is no scope for reformation of heart and of reformation at all in the convict, and therefore reformatory theory would never agree or will never talk of retaining capital punishment. So then we continued, and we had already completed few slides in the beginning. That is capital punishment retentionists versus abolitionists view. Now, capital punishment means death by hanging. As you know, it means actually death penalty. So it can be electrocution or it can be poisoning in front of the jury, and the death is fast, of course. They prefer to do this rather than in hanging. It takes some time for a person to die, and that can be very painful. But in some countries, like in India, we have death by hanging. So capital punishment in some countries, in fact, is banned. They don't give capital punishment, but there are countries where they retain the capital punishment because especially if the convict has committed very, very serious crime. So two theories are very much for capital punishment. One is retributive theory of punishment, which works on the principle of eye for eye and tooth for tooth. And the second one is deterrent theory of punishment, which says that we want to stop potential criminals from committing serious crimes or similar kind of crimes in future. So at present, you must, if the convict is caught, if the criminal is caught, then you must punish the criminal. Serious the crime, the punishment has to be very, very severe. And in fact, deterrent theory also says that you must see that publicly punishment is been given, so that people will, especially potential criminals, will get a lesson that they should not commit similar type of crimes. Now, capital punishment in Old English era, that is ultimate penalty, as you all know, for a grave offense or major crime such as murder, especially, or even ruthless rape and murder. So for such crimes, you know very well that capital punishment is often given. Now, at one point, this type of punishment was given for minor offenses, as I told you. For example, in 1815 in England, it was a capital offense to steal good of the value of ₹5. And this is very shocking, that from a shop, if a person steals anything, any good worth ₹5 from a shop, was given capital punishment, was given death punishment, or even stealing from a house of goods worth ₹50 at that time. So a person was given death penalty. Now this shocks us. In 1816, capital punishment was given if one destroyed, just imagine, a machine, or stole a sheep, or pickpocketed. For these crimes also, a person was given capital punishment, which today's era would not accept, definitely will not agree upon. And you find that stealing sheep, भेड़ को चुराना, या किसी का वॉलेट मार लेना, या मशीन चुराना, उसके लिए भी कैपिटल पनिशमेंट दिया जाता था. So in the book Moral Philosophy by Dr. Uma Shankar and Dr. Vatsala Pai, it is mentioned this, and it is really a very uh, shocking thing, that we come to know. And today we will say for such crimes you give capital punishment. Of course not. But at that time they believed it is a serious offense because machine was considered very important. So sometimes you really think that are machines so important than human life? Uh, Anyways, at that time it was given like this. So the justification for death penalty is often done in many ways. According to deterrent theory, a person who deliberately commits murder should be given capital punishment. But deterrent theory itself has many drawbacks. उसके खुद के कितने drawbacks है. And we find that for murder, well, I personally, though, we don't know what was the psychological status of that individual when committing murder. So there is a collision between legal and moral justice that we had seen, and that particular conflict is unresolved till date, aaj tak. And that is why deterrent theory anyway will say for serious crime, severe punishment is must. And to restore first order principle of human happiness, one must give capital punishment for serious crime like murder. So definitely deterrent theory believes in retaining capital punishment. It believes in retention of capital punishment. Second one that we had taken was according to retributive theory also, that believes in eye for eye, tooth for tooth, will also say, because they want to it relies on the principle of, it depends, or it is deduced from the first order principle of justice. So obviously, if murder is committed, then justice must be done. And for justice, a person has to be given or must be given capital punishment, that is death penalty. So they also believe in retention of capital punishment. So according to retributive theory also, a murderer should be given capital punishment as justice must be done. So also it believes in retention of capital punishment. Well, but reformative theory, obviously, in the beginning only, we spoke about that reformative theory will not agree to this, because if a person dies, there is no scope of, performs to reform a heart of the criminal. It is no possibility of reforming the heart of the criminal. So obviously, they do not believe, and they believe in abolitionist view that capital punishment should not be given. So their first order principle itself is reformation. And if for reformation, a person has to survive, has to live. But if you give death penalty, then there is no scope of reformation. So, but reformative theory does not believe in capital punishment. This is because for reformation of heart, the criminal has to live. Therefore, capital punishment is out of question. So it believes in abolitionist view. Here the two images says retributive theory and eye for eye. So capital punishment is must for a murderer. While reformative theory says no to death penalty, because you can't reform a person if a criminal dies. So we come to the next one. Well, still we find that capital punishment has some drawbacks. We think that, yeah, at certain part of the time you have to give capital punishment, there is no choice. And these images which are taken from Google, you see that don't let California kill again, and the death penalty. In America, they believe, but you find that no death penalty, the states which are marked blue in color in the map, you can see they have banned capital punishment. And you have, yeah, take care. And you have that penalty for whatever states marked in mustard yellow. And you find that meritorium on death penalty, moratorium on death penalty, where it is marked white in color. So you find that to give or not to give depends on the criminals. You have to give an explanation for that. There is yeah, no problem at all. So we find that this aspect of capital punishment is very, very important. Now, so like crime, punishment has a dual character. The penalty that the criminal suffers is not simply death. It is death in disgrace. See, when capital punishment is given, it is death in disgrace. It is a very humiliating death that a person gets. कोई बहुत शहीद नहीं होता है इसमें, कोई बहुत ही इससे ये बहुत ही डिग्निफाइड डेथ नहीं है. कैपिटल पनिशमेंट तो डिग्रेडिंग और डिसग्रेसिंग है ही, लेकिन इंपॉर्टेंट बात है दैट इज डेथ इन डिग्रेस. दैट इज my death is also so low. I'm so petty and I'm so low, I'm so base that even I am given death punishment. So it is not simply death that is here main thought that a person that strikes to us, that a person suffers. It is death in disgrace. That is very, very important fact. Just a second. Extremely sorry. So we find that in principle, let us see the drawbacks. So many countries have, however, given up capital punishment because of the following drawbacks. Now, United States, as we have seen the map here, such a large country. So many states, they all have their own interim government, and therefore they believe in these states, the government decided of the state that we will ban capital punishment, where death penalty should not be given. So as I told you, that which is marked in blue is sky blue is not given death punishment, the states which where death punishment is banned. In yellow, you find that death punishment is given, and you can see there are many states where death penalty is permitted. White one, as you can see, moratorium on death penalty for, as I told you, that for some time, the death punishment is stopped. And again, it is revived, but for some time, temporarily at present, they are not giving. Temporarily, they are not giving death punishment. They can rethink about it later. So many countries have, however, given up capital punishment because of the following drawbacks. And what are these drawbacks? In principle, capital punishment has a grave defect. It is really a serious defect, you know. It fails to treat the criminal as a person and as an end in himself. So what we find, we are not treating a human being, उसे एक इंसान के तौर पे नहीं लिया जाता है, वो जैसे वस्तु है और उसको एलिमिनेट कर देते हैं. So you are not treating a criminal as a human being or as a person, but जैसा है उसका बस उसको मृत्यु दंड देना चाहिए. So that penalty is given. Is a person an object or something that you just eliminate and it vanishes overnight? This cannot be accepted. So you find that a criminal is a person, and therefore, and as an end in himself, the person is taken as a person, being ko being. The person is taken as a being and not some object, and therefore death punishment has this major drawback. It doesn't treat a person as a person. and as a person by himself or herself. And this is something which will not permit, some people to agree with that death punishment should be given. Second one, many feel that giving a person life imprisonment is wasting public money. So, well, therefore give death punishment.
Ma'am, but how is it wasting public money?
Yeah, to keep. No, giving life imprisonment is waste
Yeah,
of
but
money because you are
in
feeding the
jail
criminal.
there is no money spent. No?
Yeah, no, in jail, a person is not spending, the government is spending our tax money on them by feeding them.
But
So,
that is very nominal.
no, not nominal. Their clothes, they have to give some work, they have given a place to survive. So much of money is spent on food according to some.
Okay.
This is waste of money because a person is a criminal. And if especially a serious crime agar commit kiya hai, then why should you give life imprisonment? Give capital punishment and don't waste time. For example, terrorist, actually.
Ma'am, terrorist I can understand because he would not be from our country, but this criminal is our own
No, but
citizen who
from
has
our country also we can have terrorist.
internal
Internal
like
also
not,
it can be there.
not
So according to some people, why waste money on some serious crime? Given life imprisonment is waste of money. Whole life you have to feed a person for no reason. That is what some of them feel. And therefore, it fails to treat the criminal as, here it comes that, and therefore what you find is, get rid of the person, they say. It is better to give capital punishment than to waste money. And this money comes from the tax money which the people pay, or the government money, So why to waste money on them? So it is therefore better to get rid of the criminal once and for all, though through capital punishment. So just give capital punishment and or haath chhad lo ki why to waste so much of money? But is this a right answer? This is this right explanation, or is it right justification for capital punishment? Of course not. But morally the question is this correct thinking? And we feel that no, you are not again treating a human being as human being. A person is a live entity, an existential entity, ontologically speaking. And how can you just treat a person because you're wasting money, so get rid of the person? You can't do that. Morally, it is not justified. And this particular problem will always remain in front of you. Well, in the former one also, and in all, the legal justice is always in conflict with moral justice. And as I told you, this problem is not solved. But you find in this particular, this is ruthless. Just to not to waste money, you say you get rid of a person, and this cannot be accepted. So a third one that we have is sometimes the court of justice may be mistaken. This is a very, very major drawback. An innocent person is given death penalty. So once the person has put to death, it would be impossible to rectify the mistake. Now, suppose a person is charged with certain serious crime and is given death punishment. Now, later, after giving the punishment, after giving him death punishment or her death punishment, it was realized that the mistake was committed by the jurisdiction. And they feel that the jury took a wrong decision, or the judge took a wrong decision. And innocent person was punished with death penalty. Now here, suppose I want to rectify my mistake as a judge, will I be able to do so? If the person doesn't survive, how will I do it? So it is something you find once the person has is put to death. How will I rectify? How will I correct myself? How will I correct my mistake? This is impossible. Therefore, death punishment should not be given, because you never know. Only on the basis of evidence, the goddess of justice is blindfolded. Only on basis of evidence you are giving. Suppose you realize these evidences were fake. What about that? Or somebody had given, have spoken lie as a witness against the criminal, and therefore the punishment was given, and later he confesses that I lied. Now the death penalty is already given. How will the judge, or how will anybody involved in this discharge of punishment will correct their mistake or rectify their mistake? So don't let California kill again, or any country kill again, and the death penalty. That is one of the very powerful statement of many countries and states in the world. So we come to the next one. So these are the views on death punishment. One feels that capital punishment should be given to some criminals, like hard-hearted criminals, because there is no choice, and they feel that there is no scope of improvement, or there will be no scope of improvement even in future. Therefore, death punishment should be given. Well, how much this can be accepted is, I don't know, because personally, this is just my personal view. You can definitely have your own view. That I feel that crime is a mental distortion. It is a psychological issue, and it needs, even if you are giving punishment, it needs a reformation rather than giving death penalty. Because how can you say that on hard-hearted criminal nothing will work in future? How can anybody be so sure? So they feel that hard-hearted criminals should be given. सख्त दिल के जो criminals होते हैं, उनको death punishment देनी चाहिए. So example is cold-blooded murderers. They should be given death punishment. Now this, or rapists and terrorists who end up killing innocent people. Now somewhere the mind says yes, but since my personal view is that yeah, at certain point you feel there is no other scope for a person to keep alive. There is no hope, no scope of improvement. Then what to do? But at this moment I'm feeling, and on the spur of moment, if I take a drastic decision as a judge, I think one has to be very, very careful, because it is not simply imprisonment or punishment where a person is put on exile or outcasted or something like that, or especially exile. But here it is ending somebody's life. So one has to think twice when one is discharging the punishment, giving punishment, that is the death penalty. So these are the different views, both the views of the retentionist and the abolitionist view. So the death penalty, capital punishment, officially sanctioned punishment of by death for very grievous, that is very serious capital crimes. So what did the abolitionists say? That it should not be there. One who wants to do away with capital punishment, who believes the death penalty is never justified. So for example, reformatory theory will never agree to death punishment. Retentionist will say we have to retain death punishment. One who wants to retain the death penalty as part of a system of legal punishment, who believes that sometimes capital punishment is warranted. You have no other choice but to give death punishment. This is the view of retentionist. So there always remain a conflict. Therefore, many countries have retained, but many countries have abolished also death penalty. So these are certain references for our this particular unit. and we have completed our syllabus, our portion.